Carapaz is the big one, off to EF Education-EasyPost. But this show, as always, is brought to you by Zwift. Zwift Academy is back for 2022. Registration is open now, whether you're aiming for a pro contract like Jay Vine or Neve Brandfree, or just looking to kickstart your fitness with some structured sessions. Zwift Academy will help you get fitter and have more fun on the bike. There are 6 workouts to complete, either solo or in-group workouts with baseline rides to compare your progress before and after. Zwift Academy. 3-year deal. 29 years old Carapaz at INEOS. He won the Giro at Movistar. He was 4th in the Giro in 2018. He won stages in both 18-19 Giro on INEOS. Tour de France 2020. He got kind of shafted because Thomas wasn't in shape. He got dragged in. He was supposed to do the Giro. Vuelta, shafted again. No teammates. Came second on bonus seconds to Roglic. Last year, 3rd in the Tour. I don't really see how he could have done too much better. And then he DNF'd the Vuelta. And then this year, 2nd in the Giro. Hindley beat him on Fadaya. In terms of wins at INEOS, it was the Olympics. But that wasn't in INEOS colours. He won Tour de Suisse last year with a stage. He won a stage at Polonia in 20 and a stage in Catalonia this year. So he's a consistent Grand Tour performer, Benji, but a 3-year deal, I see this as the Uran replacement. It's hard to see it as anything else other than that.
The initial reaction I have is, good. We're balancing out cycling a bit. We're putting a GC podium contender into a team that, in my opinion, when it comes to the Tour de France, didn't have one. I didn't see Hugh Coffey as a Tour de France podium contender. When it comes to Chavez, neither. Uran, not anymore. So that team was lacking that for me. Nelson Paulus also not on that level. With Carapaz being removed from INEOS and added to the team of EF, we've got that extra team hunting for a podium in a Grand Tour is what I would say as a goal for that team with this transfer. And next to that, let's analyze both EF and INEOS after this transfer, okay? Let's take a look at EF first. They get Carapaz as leader. Uran's out of contract. I'm guessing that that's the end for Uran at EF unless he finds an agreement that is not much money, which, I don't know, is there a team that would be interested in taking on Rigoberto Uran after 2022, after this season?
I mean, if I was him, I would stay at EF. They let him do the Gran Fondo stuff. He's got his own apparel. I think he's got his own business stuff. And he literally doesn't race or isn't in top shape for 90% of the year, and EF have been okay with that seemingly. So if I was him, I'd stay at EF. So, I mean, what team would want Uran? Can he provide certain points? He can't provide certain wins. Can he even guarantee you a top 10 GC at the Tour de France? No. So, and he's 35. It's curious, the parallels. He was signed when he was 29 at EF when they were Cannondale. Carapaz is 29. He podiumed the Tour de France. He came second to Uran in 2017 when he was, I think, 30, the second year of that contract. So I think that's what EF are looking for. They got it's for the whole of the next 3-year point cycle if the points remain. Carapaz, even if he doesn't win the Tour, top 5 GC at both World Tour 1 weeks and Grand Tours provide a huge amount of points. And I would say, generally speaking, the top GC guys are undervalued. You'd be like, okay, Carapaz, I don't know what he's getting paid. Vord, as I said in the Vela News article about how he had to go and get extra money from EF, get their sign-off. So he's not on the Olympic champion. He's not on pennies. But there's a lot of guys on 700K, 800K who don't win races, who don't top 10 World Tour races, can go 2 years without winning a .pro stage and don't contribute to winning. Whereas, Carapaz, he should, in theory, still be in the prime of his career. Are you worried that do you sense any decline with Carapaz? Does what happened in the Giro concern you? Or do you see him as still he should be the favourite to podium any Grand Tour he enters just about?
Favorite for a podium, that's a difficult one, eh? Because when it comes to the Tour de France, we've got some top-notch hitters for it. Roglic, Vingegaard, we've got Pogacar. Those are 3 riders I rate above Carapaz, for example. But for other Grand Tours, we usually have a podium favorites group that Carapaz would fit into and would be a rider that is set to podium a Grand Tour that doesn't have those three big hitters on the start line. So I see Carapaz as a podium contender for any Grand Tour he lines up with, but it's going to be harder in the Tour de France than in any other Grand Tour in the season, is what I'd say for now. Obviously, let's say Remco does actually destroy La Vuelta, like you have happening in your dreams every single night until the Vuelta happened. And that would change things because that's an extra contender that would be significant for Grand Tours in the future. So there's always that danger that an Ayuso, that an Evenepoel, that an Almeida, that those riders step up and become better than a Carapaz when it comes to the podiuming of Grand Tours. But when it comes to Carapaz himself, I don't necessarily see him becoming weaker over the last 2 years. Yes, he won that Movistar Giro back in the day, but I still believe that was a mistake by Nibali on the stage where Carapaz took most of the points, where Nibali basically only focused on Roglic, expecting Roglic to be this all-out contender for that Grand Tour, and it backfired completely with Carapaz taking loads of time and eventually being unable to take back all the time towards Carapaz by the end of the Grand Tour. And when it comes to the Vuelta, where Carapaz almost beat Roglic, again, if he has a better team there by INEOS, he wins that Grand Tour, in my opinion. But also next to that, was that Roglic at top level in that Vuelta, or was that at the end of tiredness,
He
Roglic?
wasn't top level, and also it was in November, so it was colder and rainier. If it's in hot conditions, he's going to have less problems. That random stage, was that the race where the jacket
Formigal.
thing was?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that, November Vuelta, like Carthy, I think, prefers the cold. He did better in that Vuelta, weird Vuelta. That being said, there haven't been many options on the market. There's two guys that were on the market for 2023 who have podiumed a Grand Tour in the last 2-3 years. Kelderman, 31, and Carapaz. Kelderman versus Carapaz. If I'm EF, it makes more sense to sign Carapaz, even if he's more expensive. Kelderman's less reliable in terms of crashing and points, one would think. Like, for example, this year, I like Kelderman as a rider. I think he's underrated, but the results are what they are. Tirreno 19th, Valenciana DNF, Giro 17th, Dauphiné 28th, Burgos 9th. Although that's being said, he was instrumental for Hindley on sort of for stage 14, but that is not Carapaz.
Yep. Carapaz also is able to win stages, which Kelderman has difficulties with. Let's just say that. But next to that, if we take a look at what is surrounding him in 2023 at EF, let's talk about that aspect of that team. In all honesty, it is a relatively decent climbing squad. It's not a godlike climbing squad. It depends on who you send with him to the Grand Tour that Carapaz is supposed to podium, because will EF send Carfi and Carapaz to the same Grand Tour, for example, or will they split them up? That is a question that I'm asking myself. Are they going to send them both to the same Grand Tour, to the Tour de France, for example, with the Venezuelan, Ecuador. Oh my God, I'm getting the countries wrong. The Ecuador people in there as well. Caicedo, Cepeda, those riders.
Yeah.
Cepeda signed as well by EF. So I don't know. That's
He's
three
useless.
Ecuadorians. But is he completely useless, or can he be part of a climbing train?
I mean, what climb can someone that's 53 kilos help on that doesn't have the same raw watts per kilo as Jonas? I'm sure he could be fine, but he's signed because he's Ecuadorian. He's on Androni, and his agent, I haven't looked. I bet you it's a Quadro. I bet you any money. So that is what it is. Caicedo is not a bad rider, but I think, Paulus is the one. Do you split him with Carapaz? It'll depend on the parcours. If the Tour de France has loads of time trial kilometers, do you really want to send Carapaz, or is the Giro with a softer start list? The Vuelta style is really hard. Will you send him to the Giro? Guerrero is the one. Guerrero and Chavez are out of contract, I think, at
Yeah,
EF Benji. Guerrero's having a career year. I think you let Chavez go and you try and re-sign Guerrero. That's what I would do.
I would do so as well. I don't necessarily see the resurgence of Chavez that people would have hoped for at EF so far. Yeah, he had last year was when he had a decent day in Catalonia or
Yeah,
one of those Spanish races. We haven't really seen that this year either, in my personal opinion. And like looking at Guerrero, when you look at that guy's season so far, he had a good season. Like we can say all we want about it, but even
seventh
in
in Flash.
Burgos, yeah, Flash was a great result, but even in Burgos, like sixth being in Burgos, we take a look at ninth in the Dauphiné. This was a breakaway stage hunter last year. He grew into a GC rider this year, and that's significant to the point where is he going to end up willing to work for Carapaz? He's going to have to if he stays at the team, that's quite sure, but there's so many questions about it, you know? I think they should re-sign Guerrero. I think he's very much on point. Or do you think that there's external interest in a rider like Ruben Guerrero? Because
I
if
mean, he's
I'm a different team,
Portuguese, UAE.
UAE,
He rode for Almeida in 2021 Giro, right? I'm being
yeah,
serious. Like he actually like was doing that for
yeah,
Almeida. Like
but
that would be with Costa gone. He's probably the best Portuguese rider on the market. That would make sense. It's what's interesting, Benji, is I wonder if the relegation battle has made Ruben Guerrero a shitload of money, where he normally would have been forced to stage hunt, or that would have been his plan. And instead, he's gone to chase top 10s in GCs, like a ninth at the Dauphiné, which isn't that appealing marketing wise, but that gets you paid. And so now he's been sent to Mont Ventoux Challenge. I'm not sure if EF always did that. He won that. Like I feel like the relegation stuff might have helped
yeah,
his pay packet next year. So EF, there's a lot of sort of nice pieces always at EF. I always like each rider they sign individually. Like I like Steinhauser, Padun signing. Sure, I like them all. I do worry about how their pieces always fit together. The classics team with Volga and injured, and with I think he's looking unfortunately like that was a very serious
yeah.
crash and injury. Their classics team hinges almost entirely on Bettiol and Paulus, who also goes for GC. So that's looking really light for next year. But yeah, they just need a lot of guys to progress. Iking, did he have sickness or something? Healy's got to
Hmm.
progress. The
I think
Vandenbergs, Marion Vandenberg gets sent to the wrong races. I don't know.
the question I have after this entire EF discussion, I think we completed like the EF discussion here. When it comes to INEOS, where does this transfer of Carapaz to
Oh
EF
yeah.
leave INEOS? What effect does it have on INEOS? Does this mean that INEOS did they let him go, or did EF pay
Well,
more than INEOS would have paid for
would
a
you have
Carapaz,
matched
for example?
if you
It
were
depends on the
Ineos?
money.
Well, let's say it's 3 mil. It's like big boy GC contender, top 5 GC contender in the world money. 3 mil,
No,
3.5 mil. Could be
I don't
more.
think so. I think I'd rather secure Rodriguez than match a 3 million Carapaz.
I agree. And Rodriguez doesn't cost 3 million. Well, I guess like at the moment he hasn't got the results to demand that contract. So I agree. But then who are they sending to the Giro? You'd have to have faith in Gegenhardt to step up to leadership again. We haven't seen that since 2020 Giro. I'm not looking at their roster. You have to have faith that Bernal comes back. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things have to fall into place for you to. It's like Benji when Lefebvre was like, I'll let Bennett go because I trust Fabio's coming back. He took a
Yeah.
calculated risk. It paid off in a big way. I think that's at play for Ineos. There's a lot of guys hunting for opportunities. And yeah, with Carlos Rodriguez, Benji, Movistar would literally roll out the red carpet. They might not match salary, but they're like, we'll give you any race you want, leadership, any race you want. You can have it. And, versus if you've got Carapaz for the next 3 years stifling this opportunity. So I'm not surprised that INEOS let him go. They're in a rebuilding phase. You see these things happen in cycles.